People thought they knew everything about Keanu Reeves. They saw him on screen, calm and gentle, always respectful and kind. But there was one story that most people never heard, a story that began many years ago, quietly, softly, almost like a secret that lived inside his heart. And that story was about Sandra Bullock. It all started during the time they worked together on a film. Many actors forget each other after a movie ends, but something was different with them. The moment they met, there was a feeling of peace, like they already understood each other without speaking too much. Keanu often said in private that Sandra was one of the few people who made him feel safe, seen, and understood. She laughed with her whole heart, and when she smiled, the whole room softened. He admired that deeply. But during that time, Keanu was going through many personal struggles. He had known loss, loneliness, and the weight of silence. He was used to walking alone, carrying pain quietly. He rarely talked about it. He chose kindness over anger, patience over complaint. And even though he tried to hide it, Sandra could see the sadness behind his gentle eyes. One afternoon, they were sitting together outside the studio. The day was quiet, almost peaceful. Sandra turned to him and asked softly, "Are you okay?" She didn't mean it in a casual way. She said it with real care, with honesty. It surprised him. No one had asked him like that in a long time. For a moment, Keanu didn't know what to say. But then he looked into her eyes and felt something warm, something safe. He told her not everything, but enough. He told her about how life had hurt him, how love had left too soon, how silence had become a home he didn't choose. Sandra didn't interrupt. She didn't try to fix him. She just listened. And in that moment, Keanu realized something very rare. She understood him without needing explanation. Their friendship grew from that day. Not loud, not dramatic, but gentle. Sometimes they talked for hours. Sometimes they said nothing and just sat together. Sandra's presence became something Keanu carried with him, even when they were miles apart. But feelings are complicated. Keanu admired her. He respected her. She was strong, brave, and full of warmth. And somewhere deep inside him, he felt something more, something close to love. But he didn't speak of it, not because he didn't want to, but because he was afraid. Afraid to lose her, afraid to ruin the peaceful connection they already had, afraid that he was not enough. And so, he chose silence. Years passed. Life changed. They went on with their careers, their lives, their journey. But something always stayed. And whenever they saw each other, even after months or years apart, it felt the same, natural, real, gentle. One evening, during a quiet interview, Keanu was asked about love. The interviewer expected a simple answer, maybe a joke, maybe a short comment. But Keanu paused. His voice softened. He said something unexpected. He said, "There's someone I have always admired, someone who made my life brighter, someone I would marry if life had brought us together at the right time." The room got quiet. The interviewer leaned in. The audience watching felt something shift. And then Keanu said her name, Sandra. He didn't smile. He didn't laugh. He said it with honesty. And his words melted every heart. But what happened next, no one expected. The interview clip traveled across the world within hours. People shared it everywhere, saying it was the most honest and beautiful thing they had heard in a long time. But while the public was feeling warm and touched, Sandra Bullock was sitting alone in her living room, watching the same clip in complete silence. Her hands were slightly shaking. Her eyes were full of something deep, something she had kept hidden for many years. She knew exactly what he meant, because she had felt it too. She remembered the long nights after filming, when they would sit in the car and talk about life, dreams, and fears. She remembered the gentle quietness between them that wasn't awkward but peaceful. She remembered the way Keanu always opened doors for others, how he treated everyone with kindness, no matter who they were. He was not loud with his goodness, he just lived it. And she remembered the moment she realized she loved him. It was years ago. They were having dinner after a long day. Nothing special, nothing dramatic. But Keanu had laughed at something she said, a soft, quiet laugh, and in that moment, Sandra felt something move inside her heart. A quiet, warm, steady feeling. Love that was not rushed. Love that was gentle and true. but like Keanu, she kept it inside. Both of them had lived lives marked by love and loss, by trust and heartbreak. They were afraid to damage what they already had. Their friendship was safe, real, and irreplaceable. So they both chose silence, believing it was better to keep feelings hidden than to risk losing each other completely. But now, with one simple statement, that silence was gone. The phone began buzzing. Messages came. Calls came. News reporters wanted reactions. Talk show hosts wanted comments. Fans wanted answers. But Sandra didn't want to talk to the world. She wanted to talk to him. She took a slow breath and dialed his number. When Keanu answered, his voice was calm as always, but there was something else there too. Something unsure. He said softly, "I guess you saw the interview." She whispered, "Yes." A long silence followed. Not cold, not distant, just full of everything they had never said. Finally, she spoke. "Why did you say it?" Keanu took a deep breath. He had been asked many questions in his life, but this one felt different. He said, "Because it has been in my heart for a long time, and I didn't want to hide it anymore." Her eyes filled with tears, not sadness, but a kind of release. She asked, "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" His voice was gentle, almost broken. "I was afraid that if I spoke it, I would lose you. You are one of the most important people in my life, Sandra. I didn't want to risk that." Her heart ached because she understood. She had felt that same fear. She whispered, "I was afraid to." She could hear his breath catch. Not dramatic, just real. Then, in the quiet, Keanu said something that changed everything. "Sandra, can we meet? Just us and no cameras. No interviews. Just us." She didn't hesitate. "Yes, come over." He said he would be there soon. She closed her phone and sat still, feeling the weight of years lift off her chest. Her heart was beating fast, not with fear now but with hope. Outside, a quiet rain began to fall, tapping softly against the windows. And somewhere on the other side of the city, Keanu Reeves picked up his motorcycle keys, his hands steady, his heart full. Their moment had finally begun. The rain grew heavier as Keanu rode through the city, the drops sliding across his helmet like quiet tears from the sky. The streets were dim, lights reflecting in long silver streaks across the pavement. His heart beat steadily, but deeply, like it had been waiting years for this one night. It wasn't excitement. It wasn't fear. It was something deeper, a quiet truth he could no longer hide. When he reached Sandra's home, he paused for a moment outside. He stood there in the rain, letting it wash over him, grounding him, steadying him. Then he walked to the door. Sandra opened it before he could knock. She had been standing there, waiting, her hand resting on the doorknob, listening for his footsteps. When their eyes met, the world seemed to fall silent. No words were spoken at first. They simply looked at each other, to hearts holding years of unsaid feelings between them. Finally, she stepped aside, her voice soft. "Comin'." Keanu walked inside, and she closed the door behind them. The room was quiet, lit only by a soft lamp beside the couch. The atmosphere felt warm, safe, intimate. It felt like a place where truth could finally breathe. They sat down, not too close, not too far. The space between them was filled with years of memories, and the weight of the moment felt almost sacred. Keanu was the first to speak. "I didn't plan to say those words. They just came out." Sandra nodded slowly. "Sometimes the heart gets tired of waiting." She looked down at her hands. "I always wondered if you felt something too, but I didn't want to lose you either. Our friendship meant everything to me." Keanu leaned back, letting out a quiet breath. "I know, I felt the same. I kept thinking, if I said it, everything would change. And maybe it would break." Sandra's eyes softened. Maybe it would change, but maybe it would grow. The room held a gentle silence. Neither rushed the moment. Keanu looked at her, his expression open, vulnerable. "Do you remember that day on set? When you gave me that piece of chocolate, because I looked tired?" She smiled faintly. "Yes. You said it was the best chocolate you had ever tasted." He nodded. "It wasn't the chocolate. It was you. Your kindness. Your warmth. I remember thinking, if there was a person in this world I could trust fully, it would be you." Sandra felt her heart break open a little, like a flower blooming slowly. Her voice trembled. "I always felt safe with you. Even without speaking, their eyes stayed locked, and something deep shifted between them. Years of silence began to unravel. Then Sandra said something she had never admitted before. "I loved you, Keanu. I don't know when it started, but I loved you. Quietly, carefully, and I was afraid of how strong it felt." The confession hung in the air like a light that could not be dimmed. Keanu's single quote's breath caught. His voice came out soft, raw. "I loved you too, Sandra. I still do." It was the truth. Pure, honest, unprotected. Tears filled her eyes, not from sadness, but release. She stood up slowly and walked toward him. He stood too. They were inches apart now. The air between them was full of history, longing, love. Neither rushed. Neither needed to. Keanu reached out gently, touching her cheek with the back of his hand. She closed her eyes, leaning into his touch. No words were needed. The moment spoke for them. But love, no matter how real, is rarely simple. And just as their hearts finally opened, a message appeared on Sandra's phone that would change everything. The message tone broke the silence in the room. A small vibration, nothing loud, but the sound felt heavy, almost like a reminder that life always moves, even in the most delicate moments. Sandra hesitated before picking up her phone. Her hands were still trembling from the confession, from the closeness of Keanu standing only inches away. When she finally looked at the screen, her expression changed. Keanu noticed it instantly. He asked softly, "Is everything all right?" Sandra didn't answer right away. She just stared at the screen. Her eyes softened, but not with warmth. Instead, with a quiet sadness. She finally spoke. "It's from my agent. They want me to confirm the interview next week." Keanu nodded slowly, not understanding yet. "Okay, that's normal, isn't it?" She took a breath. "It's not a normal interview. It's the one where they expect me to talk about my relationship." Keanu froze. He didn't need to ask which relationship. For the past 2 years, Sandra had been seeing someone. Not a deep love, not like this, but a caring relationship she had allowed herself to try. Because she believed she needed to move forward. She had tried to build something stable, something peaceful. And although he was a good man, although he cared for her, her heart had never fully opened. And now she knew why. But this reality did not disappear just because love finally spoke its truth. Keanu lowered his eyes, not out of jealousy, but out of respect, out of understanding, out of the most painful kind of patience. He whispered, "Are you still with him?" Sandra nodded slowly. "We've been distant for months. We've both felt it, but we never ended it. We just let it continue, because it was easier than facing the truth." Keanu took this in quietly. He didn't push. He didn't demand. He didn't speak badly of anyone. That was not who he was. Instead, he said something gentle, something true. "You don't have to make any decisions tonight." But Sandra shook her head. Her voice was low, almost trembling. "Keanu, I already know the truth. I have known it for years, but I was afraid to choose it. Afraid that choosing you would mean risking everything. But now I know what life feels like without saying the truth. It feels empty, quiet in the wrong way." She looked at him, her eyes reflecting years of unspoken love. "I don't want to live quietly anymore." Keanu felt his chest tighten, his breath deepen. There was so much love in the room it felt almost overwhelming. But life is not only emotion, it is responsibility, honesty, timing. He spoke gently. "Before anything happens, you need to speak to him. With honesty, with kindness. He deserves that. And you deserve clarity." She nodded, tears gathering but not falling. "I will, tomorrow. I will speak to him tomorrow." Keanu stepped closer, and for a moment, he wrapped his arms around her. She leaned into him, resting her head against his chest. The embrace was slow, warm, and real. Not rushed, not desperate, simply true. They stayed like that for a long time. Two hearts that had waited years, finally holding each other. But even love needs time. Later that night, after he left her home, Keanu walked slowly back to his motorcycle. The rain had calmed to a soft mist. His heart was full, but also heavy, because love, when it finally arrives, often arrives at the edge of change. He looked at the quiet sky and whispered to himself, "Whatever happens, I will choose kindness. I will choose her happiness, And in her home, Sandra sat alone on the couch, holding herself, breathing in deeply. Tomorrow, everything would change, but neither of them expected how difficult tomorrow would be. The next morning arrived with a heavy stillness. Sandra woke early, even before the sun touched the windows. Her chest felt tight, not from fear of the conversation she had to have, but from the weight of truth she could no longer hide. Truth has its own gravity. Once spoken, it refuses to go back to silence. She made coffee but didn't drink it. She sat at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around the warm cup, staring at nothing. She rehearsed her words, lost them, found them again, and still felt unsure. Because even when love is clear, endings are painful. Round noon, she drove to her partner's house. They hadn't lived together, but they had shared time, shared plans, shared moments that deserved respect. When he opened the door, he knew instantly something was wrong. Love, even fading love, can sense change. He invited her inside, but they didn't sit. They stood facing each other in the living room, quiet stretching between them. He finally asked, "Is this about us?" Sandra nodded, her voice soft. Yes. He didn't interrupt. He didn't try to fix it. His eyes held acceptance, maybe even understanding that she said, "You are a good man, and I care about you. But something has always been missing. Something inside me has been quiet for too long, and I can't pretend anymore." He swallowed slowly. "Is it someone else?" She closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them. "It's not that he replaced you. It's that he was always there, in my heart, long before I tried to move forward." He nodded. Once, slowly. He was hurting, but he also saw the truth in her eyes. He whispered, "It's Keanu, isn't it?" Sandra took a breath. Yes, there was no anger, no shouting, just a quiet grief of letting go. He said, "I hope he loves you the way you deserve." Tears slipped from her eyes. He stepped forward and hugged her, not as lovers, but as to human beings parting with grace. When she left, the air felt clearer. Heavy, yes. Emotional, yes. But honest. And honesty brings a different kind of peace. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Keanu spent the morning pacing his living room. He didn't call her. He didn't ask for updates. He respected her space. But every heartbeat felt slow and heavy. He had waited years already. He could wait one day more. When the phone finally rang, he stopped breathing for a moment. Her voice was soft, tired, but steady. "I talked to him. It's over." Keanu didn't respond right away. He wanted to make sure his next words came from the right place, not emotion. He whispered, "Are you okay?" Sandra breathed in deeply. "I feel sad. I feel relieved. I feel honest. And I know what I want now." Keanu closed his eyes, letting her words settle into his heart. "What do you want, Sandra?" There was no hesitation in her answer. "I want us." Keanu felt something inside him shift, like a door opening that had been locked for years. But before they could speak more, something unexpected happened. A sudden knock at Keanu's door. Firm, urgent. He walked toward it slowly, uncertainty tightening his chest. When he opened it, he didn't see Sandra. He saw her former partner, soaking wet from rain, eyes full of something nobody expected. And what he said next would change the direction of everything. Keanu stood still. The door open, rain dripping from the man's jacket and pooling onto the floor. The air felt tense, not angry, but heavy with something unsaid. Sandra's former partner met Keanu's eyes, and there was no bitterness there, only sincerity and a quiet kind of pain. He spoke softly. "I'm not here to fight. I'm not here to blame. I just needed to say something to you, face to face." Keanu nodded, calmly. "Okay, I'm listening." The man took a breath, steadying himself. "She loves you. I think she always has. And I see now that I was holding on to something that wasn't mine to keep. But I need you to understand something, Keanu. She has been hurt before, deeply. She gives the world her strength, but she hides her pain. She will stand beside everyone she loves, even when she's breaking inside." His voice shook a little. "So if you choose her, choose all of her, not just the parts that smile." Keanu felt something move inside his chest. Respect, deep, honest respect for the man standing before him. He didn't interrupt. He didn't defend himself. He didn't make promises he couldn't keep. Instead, he spoke quietly. I know her heart. I will protect it. Not by holding it, but by walking with it. With honesty, with patience, with respect. The man nodded, eyes shining. He stepped back. Then take care of her. Keanu bowed his head gently. A silent promise. The man turned and walked away, disappearing into the rain like a chapter closing slowly. Gracefully. The door shut softly. Keanu stayed still for a moment, breathing in the quiet. Then he picked up his phone and called Sandra. She answered on the first ring. Her voice was soft, fragile, full. Keanu. He didn't ask her to explain anything. He didn't speak of the past. He simply said, I'm coming over. When he arrived, Sandra opened the door, and this time, there was no hesitation, no walls, no silence left to hide behind. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him, and he held her tightly, as if he had been holding back that embrace for years. They stood like that for a long time. The rain outside softened into a gentle whisper, like the world was finally exhaling. Keanu pulled back just enough to look into her eyes. His voice was low, steady, full of love. I don't want to rush anything. I don't want to force anything. But I want to be with you, truly with you, not as a possibility, not as a memory, as your partner, your companion, your friend, your love. Sandra's eyes filled with tears, but this time they were warm, peaceful. She whispered, that's all I've ever wanted. Someone who chooses me, not because I'm strong, not because I'm smiling, but because I'm human. Keanu lifted her hand, holding it gently, as if it was the most precious thing he had ever touched. He said, then walk with me, slowly, honestly, every day. She nodded, tears falling softly. Yes, every day, in that small, quiet living room. Two hearts that had waited years finally found their home, not in grand announcements, not in public statements, but in truth, spoken softly, held carefully, lived genuinely. Weeks later, the world saw them together, walking hand in hand. No flashiness, no performance, just two people who had finally chosen each other. And when Keanu was asked again about love, he simply said, sometimes the heart knows long before the mind is ready. But when the time comes, you choose with your whole soul. His words melted every heart again. And this time, Sandra was standing beside him, smiling gently. Her hand in his. Their love had always been there. Now, the world could finally see it.